And now it's time for the presentation of the Arc of Justice Award.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Siegel, and I am a founding trustee of the New England Innocence Project, and currently its board chair. It is my honor tonight to introduce the 2024 Arc of Justice awardee on the occasion of our 20th anniversary as a nonprofit. The Arc of Justice Award recognizes the special contributions of a community member who bends the arc of justice of the moral universe toward justice. The principle behind the Arc of Justice Award is that it only bends toward justice when people pull it there. It does not bend on its own. Before I turn to tonight's awardee, I want to recognize past recipients of the Arc of Justice and Marching Toward Freedom Awards. Some are in the audience tonight, and we are so grateful for your continued contributions to this community. This evening, we have the privilege of honoring an outstanding political leader who has devoted her time and heart to wrongfully convicted people and their families so that their long-fought freedom can be a time of joy and reunification. Tonight, we honor the compassionate leadership of Massachusetts Senator Patricia Jehlen, a friend of the New England Innocence Project for more than 20 years. Senator Jehlen has helped people understand that when someone is exonerated and freed, they are not automatically given support or assistance from the state that wrongfully convicted them. Too often, even after an exoneration, freedom can be difficult and isolating. For over 2 decades, Senator Jehlen, Pat, has worked to pass landmark legislation to financially compensate victims of wrongful convictions, working directly with people who've been exonerated, their loved ones, and advocates. Senator Jehlen has tirelessly fought for people who have endured the trauma of wrongful imprisonment, ensuring that they are fully supported in freedom. She has championed funding for the Exoneree Network to provide direct support, including housing, financial stipends, therapeutic spaces, and more, to create a thriving community for families impacted by long-term incarceration. This program, as you've heard, has been a lifeline to hope and healing for individuals and families. We are tremendously grateful for the humanity and understanding Senator Jehlen has brought to the floor of the Massachusetts legislature. Without her strength in bending that arc of justice, too many people would have been left alone to fight their way back to a life they deserve. It is my privilege to ask Senator Patricia Jehlen. Pat, please join me on stage to receive the New England Innocence Project's 2024 Arc of Justice Award.
I'm not good at this. There is no group of people that I'm prouder to be associated with in any way. I'm lucky to know the people in the Innocence Project, the Exonerated Network, and all the people. There are still people isolated who were exonerated long ago, I hear from, and I'm so glad there's a place to send them. So I thank you for the award, but mostly for your work. I'm so grateful to everybody here, and I did write it down because I know I would get excited. I'm so grateful to everybody here, the Innocence Project, the Exonerated Network, all of the supporters, all of the lawyers, all of the exonerees. This is incredibly important work. And it's incredibly hard, and it's frustrating. It should not be this hard. It should never be necessary. But when someone is released after years of decades in prison, it is so amazing. Now the Exonerated Network is doing such incredible work, building a community of support and advocacy and storytelling, and that's what we're here for tonight, and I'm so glad I got to hear these stories, which you've had in other celebrations. I'm here to tell you how powerful storytelling is. People ask me why I got involved with wrongful convictions. Long ago, when I was a state representative, I read about two men, both wrongfully convicted as teenagers and exonerated after over a decade. It's not an uncommon story, unfortunately, but at the time we thought it was uncommon. Lawyer Johnson, that was the last man on death row in Massachusetts, he was exonerated in 1982 and came out with no job, no home, no supports. He got absolutely no help from the state that had taken his freedom, and he struggled the rest of his life. Bobby Joe Leister was exonerated a few years later, and his lawyers managed to get the attention of Speaker Finneran and the legislature and to vote him an annuity which paid him over $1 million over time. He went on to a long and successful career as a youth worker. The contrast of Lawyer Johnson and Bobby Joe Leister's stories was so stark. I thought these solutions shouldn't depend on case-by-case decisions by the legislature. It takes a while to get things through the legislature. I think I have a couple of colleagues here, Senator Miranda and Senator Eldridge, at least I saw. It takes a while, and it doesn't always work. So I thought, but I started filing bills for wrongful convictions to set up a process, and it took us till 2004 to pass that bill, and there are people in this room who helped. One I saw tonight for the first time in a long time is Ann Lambert from ACLU. 2004 is the same year the New England Innocence Project was founded, and the law had, at the time, a $500,000 limit. Lawyer Johnson was one of the first. Apparently not. Apparently Dennis Mayer was the first. But Lawyer was one of the first to file a claim and was so desperate for money that when the Attorney General contested his request for compensation, he settled for $275,000. That's $27,000 a year. I don't think anybody would take that to be incarcerated for a year. Unfortunately, that still happens it continues to happen after we raised the cap in 2018, that people settle for less because they can't wait. So we're still working with many of you here, including the leadership of Radhanajradam, I never got it wrong, and Sean Ellis and the Exonerated Network, and with the help of my dedicated Chief of Staff, Matt Hartman, who's here with me tonight, on another reform bill to improve it. John Ellis is another example of the power of stories. At the beginning of COVID, a lot of people were watching a lot of television, and we saw his story, Trial 4. His story gripped people in a time of broader reckoning. And I'm just curious, how many people did see Trial 4? I bet it's a lot. I would say a clear majority, thank you. It's incredibly effective when exonerees tell their stories to their legislators, and Sean helped organize that this year to have people come in and talk to us. It's very hard for us to say no. So we're here tonight to listen to stories and tell stories and be inspired by them to work to free more innocent people and get them the support they need. And I want to lift up also the power of persistence. The men, and a very few women, who have been exonerated are among the strongest people I know. They faced not just the trauma of prison, but the added trauma of knowing that they were being punished and condemned for something they didn't do. But for years, they kept believing that justice, even though delayed, was possible. They kept working for years for their own release, and now they're working to care for each other. When I learned about Lawyer Johnson and Bobby Joe Leister, we thought wrongful convictions were uncommon. It's way too common. And now probably over 100 people in Massachusetts have been found innocent and set free. So the work continues to release more innocent people, to stop the practices that lead to unjust convictions, to reform the Department of Corrections, and to provide more adequate and timely compensation. As David Siegel says, the arc of history does not bend itself, but with your stories and your voices, I believe we can continue to bend the arc of history towards justice. And thank you for all you do.